Hello and welcome to Virtual CONjuration 2020. My name is Darin Bush. I'm sometimes known as the Professor. Welcome to the panel Supernatural, the show that would not die. We're going to talk about one of our favorite magical fantasy TV series in just a minute here. But before we do that, I want to get into introducing our panelists. I'm going to pick on Hannah first. If you'll please introduce yourself to the CONjuration audience.
Hi, I'm Hannah, the resident Ravenclaw. I'm not like a writer or anything, so I don't have like a huge introduction like all these other great people do that panel here. I just like to talk, so they let me on panels here at CONjuration. So
all right, well that works. that non-introduction works. That's fine. And yeah. Thom, how about you?
I mean, I'm not a writer either. I mean, we're both proof that I guess if you just insert yourself into enough situations, they give you like a job at these conventions, I guess. Mm-hmm. Though I do have a YouTube show over on dragonmat.com. It's called the Watt Community Show. You should check that out if you're into the Wheel of Time, or we do talk about other Tor books and authors on there as well occasionally. Tor is our sponsor, so we do that. Mm-hmm. And I also work at JordanCon. It's another convention, kind of like CONjuration, except with a Wheel of Time skin over the top of it. Science fiction and fantasy books. We have a Wheel of Time track, but also science fiction, fantasy, stuff like that.
Excellent. And several of you have heard me say that I write short stories. I am a science fiction and fantasy author. Sorry, guys. We guess we had to have a designated author on every panel or something like that. But anyway,
literature convention, right?
Literature. It's a literature convention, yeah. Mostly what I do around here is create content and sit on panels and moderate panels for various conventions in Atlanta. CONjuration, absolutely. This is the biggest one for me. This is my favorite. But also hang out at some of the other local Atlanta conventions, especially virtually, which has actually been a real boon for a lot of these discussions. Speaking of discussion, what are we here to talk about? I would like to let you guys know that this is one of those panels. This is one of those panels where everyone's like, what's the plan? I'm like, there's no plan. It's a panel about supernatural. There's no plan. And even if we did have a plan, the plan never works.
That's fair.
Yeah, okay. So what we're really talking about here is the fact that Supernatural is on its 15th season, which is just amazing. Some of us are having trouble keeping up because they dropped season 15, at least on Netflix where I watch it. And then the second half of season 15 didn't show up in a timely manner. So it is the show that would not die. So Hannah, can I assume that you're a fan of Supernatural because you're here?
Yes, I am a fan of Supernatural. Okay. We have a weird relationship because I originally was watching it and then I stopped watching it around like season 10 and didn't watch it for like 3-ish years. And then I heard it was ending and I was like, well, I guess I have to finish it. So I started like a whole rewatch where I started from season 1 because I'm crazy and decided to just like rewatch everything. So now we're on season 15 and just waiting for it to end, even though it should have probably ended a long time ago, but people are going to kill me if they hear me say that.
You might have just said it in public. Thom, how about you? Where did you get started with Supernatural?
It was a while ago. I mean, I don't remember exactly what year. I want to say maybe 08 or 09, maybe. I had gotten injured at work, and I was laid up with a broken foot, and I was like, "What's this show? Seems weird. Let me watch that." And I binged there, and I fell in love with it. I mean, Jeffrey Dean Morgan for me, anything with him was like, especially then and now I love him. I love him. I will watch anything with him in it, and that's what like pulled me in because who knows what a Padalecki is or Jensen Ackles at that time
Yeah.
So that's what really pulled me in at the time. But now I love it. I mean, like I got the tattoo and I use it a lot I play a lot of D&D, especially now that we can do it virtually. So, I use a my characters have a little bit of the spell work in there. You know, I use their stuff a lot.
Excellent. Yeah, when you said you use it a lot, I was like, you use the tattoo a lot?
No, I use their, you know, like the, you know, hex bags and stuff like that. I like to, you know, when we play D&D, I use the mechanics that they have in the book, but I change the flavor a lot with spell casting and stuff like that. And and you know, sometimes I'll use Dresden Files stuff, or sometimes I'll use, you know, actual mythology and Celtic lore stuff, or, you know, but a few of my characters are like kind of urban wizards where they don't really know what they're doing, but they use the spells that they learn from the monsters they fight. And I modeled one of my guys after Sam. So, like, you know, he's a little bit of a spellcaster sometimes in the show. So that's,
yeah,
I use that a lot.
Absolutely.
Well,
I should probably explain that I actually didn't come to Supernatural until late. Myself, I had plenty of friends who talked about it. It you know, it was on the CW. Sam and Dean are very pretty, and I was like, okay, it's one of those shows. And then I sat down and took a look at it, and I went, no, it's not. It's not one of those shows. Hold on a second. So I went back to the very beginning, which is something that I do. I got to go back from the beginning, and I basically just mainlined it all the way up to, I think, season 13. So I watched season 1 through 13 just straight. It was like, and then season 14 came along, jumped on. Season 15 came along, I jumped on. I'm getting to the end. I'm getting halfway through the last episode of season 15, and I'm going, I don't think they can wrap all of this up in 20 minutes. Nope, they did not wrap it up in 20 minutes because they still had a half a season they hadn't dropped yet.
Yep.
So so is there any like clear, obvious explanation how a show like this lasts for 15 seasons?
No, I mean, it's, I feel like it's always just like, you know, just the right, you know, CONjuration to use the word, you know, they just throw the right stuff in there and it works. Like they just get lucky. Like every time you think that they really jumped the shark, they didn't. Like you just, it's enjoyable. Like, you know, is it, you know, Emmy winning television, you know, Oscar worthy performances and everything? No. But it's fun. Every time you think like, oh man, this story is just getting even more and more ridiculous, it's still fun to watch. You know, it's the charisma between all the characters, the dialogue, even if the story is a little weak, the dialogue is fun and the characters are fun to watch. So,
yeah.
So let me say, I love Supernatural, but it does have its peaks and valleys within the series, like for sure. Like, I think it went on for so long, definitely as like a fan pandering. If it didn't have as big of a fan base that wanted it to keep going, I don't think that it would have had the longevity that it did. And I think there were definitely like places where it could have stopped and it would have been like fine.
Yeah, well, it was supposed to stop after the first
after 5
3 or 4 for the
after
5.
5.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that would have been great. I do like that it's gone on because I love like Castiel. I love a lot of stuff that they've done, but there are some seasons that definitely had some very low points where I was like, where is this going? Like, I'm going to keep watching, but, and then, I mean, like, it gets better, and definitely like the introduction of Jack, I think towards the end there, like
13
brought it back up into a peak, because I feel like it was going down and like there wasn't really anywhere for them to go. And then the introduction to Jack definitely brought them back up to a place where they had somewhere to go. But I definitely don't think it was a very like, this is an always great 15 seasons. I think it definitely had some.
100%.
But I do love it. Like, I'm just being critical, but I do love it. I promise.
Like, obviously, if it didn't have a fan following, they wouldn't get more seasons. That's how television works. And you know, I could see them how it is. You know, it's tough when a show has, even though you've written, you know, if you're the writers and the show producers, and you've written the whole arc and you have your ending and you've played it out, it's tough to just be like, all right, let's get rid of the show that's doing amazingly, like that all these people enjoy. So, I mean, is it a fan service? Yeah, but like that's who they made the show. That's who the show. That's who everything is for. That's who all entertainment is for, the fans. So
yeah. So let's tie this all in really nicely, which is we've talked about people said in the comments that it's fun and action packed. There's a lot of fan service because it is that kind of show. The creators and the runners love that kind of stuff. There's a lot of meta stuff in it. I think one of my favorite episodes is when they traveled into a parallel universe.
Which time?
And they essentially came into this universe where Supernatural is a TV show. It's just like if you talk about Buffy and you talk about the musical episode, people go, yeah, this is one of those, right? There's the Scooby-Doo episode, which is
fantastic.
Fans love that. But I think this one's even better than the Scooby one because they spent the entire show going, you live here? Your name
making
is
fun
Polish?
of each other and themselves.
Yeah, it's just the whole thing.
You're married
it's
to
like,
Ruby?
Yeah, it's like, that's Ruby. And just attacking people with plastic knives and jumping through fake windows. And it's just so obvious.
That was a really fun episode.
It is. It's a great episode. I could watch it over and over again.
It really shows their relationship too, like in real life, on how much you could really see how they really are friends. Like you could, I mean, you know, they're actors, so maybe they're acting really well, but it really just seems like they do have a really good time with each other when they film this.
Yeah.
For me, it really comes out in the show and especially in that episode.
I mean, we talk a lot about chemistry when we talk about, well, this movie doesn't work because there's no chemistry between the leads. And that chemistry isn't just the romantic leads. I think Sam and Dean, I think the actors have chemistry as brothers, right? I have a younger brother. Their relationship to me is very authentic. And I like the fact that they're like at each other's throats all the time, except for when somebody else gets involved and then they're a team. You know, Dean almost, I can't remember if he actually said this, but at one point I was expecting him to say, I'm the only one who can mess with my brother, right?
I'm pretty sure he said something along those lines.
I think he did. I think he actually said something like that at one point. Yeah. But the question is, do the actors really feel that way about each other? I'm not that sort of person who really cares because it comes across on the TV, comes across on the show. That Sam and Dean have a wonderfully complicated, good relationship as siblings and as friends.
When actors have a good time with each other, I feel like it comes off in the show, like or in whatever you're consuming that they're in. You could tell if they're having a good time. I don't know. For me, I mean, at least. Especially like just like the Marvel movies, like you could tell when they're in scenes together where they're having a good time, and you see that a lot with Jensen and Jared.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think when Misha joined the cast, he had that really good chemistry with them too, and I think that's part of like Castiel is like a really pivotal character, but I think that adds to his longevity of like his connection with Sam and Dean and how like well they mesh as actors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you guys feel like there's any other aspects of the show that really stand out that make Supernatural not necessarily unique, but close?
For me, it's the lore that they go into, all the different monsters and all of the different magic and all of the different, mythology that they pull from. You get a smattering of everything from all over the world: Eastern European, Northern European, Southern European, African, the Americas, the Native Americans, South America. It's everything, aliens even at one point. So it's you never know where they're going to come from. So it's, for me, what I really love about the show is that aspect of it, like the lore and the mythology that they pull from all the time. Because I've even been like, oh, that's interesting, let me look into that with a lot of the stuff. But also, like I said before, like the dialogue, the interactions with the characters. But the lore and the mythology is probably right at the top for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, I definitely like how they're able to pull lore from like all different places and kind of mesh it into one show. Like, they have Egyptian gods, and then they have this like Judeo-Christian god, and they just like have all different types of magic and all different types of monsters all in kind of like one place. And now they have like this whole multiverse theory as well, which is really cool. They just kind of pull all of these different different things and put it all together. But I think one thing that makes it stand out is like those episodes that Darin, that you were talking about, like the trickster episodes, the ones where they go into the parallel universes, or the one where, you know, Sam was living the same Tuesday over and over again, like
the Groundhog Day episode.
Yes, like those, and the funny episodes, really, the Scooby-Doo episodes, the comedic relief there, like makes it better for me. And just like when Castiel first joined the show and he just like didn't know anything about being a human, like that was the best. That was like my favorite Castiel, was when he was just like learning how to be on Earth. Like I just love that kind of comedic element as well as, you know, the lore.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Hanico's exactly right. There it is about the lore.
To say something negative about it, because we haven't yet. What they haven't done really is like explain how it really all works together. You know, like what it seems like is well, I mean, kind of, but like it seems like the Christian God or the Catholic God or whatever is the
like created all of the gods.
So he created all the gods and everything. Yeah, I mean, I get that. That's okay. I would have liked it if it was somehow, you know, kind of like a lot of the urban fantasy where it's like, you know, they all are on the same level, but it's more of a belief type thing. So since, you know, more people believe in X and Y, so, but that's a negative thing that I feel about that.
It is one of those kitchen sink shows where there isn't really a way to explain how all of these gods, whose powers are essentially contradictory because the mythologies never compared notes. The real mythologies didn't compare notes. Yeah. So it's like there's that moment where you go, okay, wait, you're a god, but what about Chuck? Can Chuck tell her what to do, or does she have some other set of rules? Or so it is one of the things about Supernatural that's very entertaining, that allows them to have 15 seasons, is they can pull from anywhere. Yeah. But then you start getting back into the main story and you go, but last week, they were somewhere else, you know, because I know there's Greek gods in there, but I think there's Norse too.
Yep.
And they run into Babylonian,
an Egyptian god.
An Egyptian,
Egyptian,
so so I could see some people going, okay, the kitchen sink thing, they pick one set of rules and let's just tell a story. But part of the fun is, and this is something that Thom said earlier, this comes from us being players of role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. One of the things that D&D is famous for, but also gets criticized for, is that kitchen sink thing, which is you walk into a dungeon and there's something in the dark. What is it? In Supernatural, I kind of enjoy when they go, well, could that be a Wendigo? Well, no, because of this. Well, what if it's that? No, then it can't be because of this. And was there a full moon? No, there wasn't a full moon, so it can't be that. What about the teeth marks? It almost turns into like a little miniature CSI moment.
Not to get into spoilers for the newest stuff, but they actually talk about something that is, for a second, it's very like the Curse. There's a villain in the Curse of Strahd campaign setting that there's a character. See if anyone could spot it, you know, go ahead, post it on CONjuration or something. That they interact with in the newest episodes. Like I think maybe the second to last episode, 13 or 12. I don't remember which one, but the writers are obviously probably also, role players too, because there's a lot of stuff in that.
Yeah. And I also want to point out, Robin Thomas made a comment in the chat that I like about focusing on Sam and Dean's loyalty. Loyalty is a huge, thank you. Sam and Dean are loyal to a stupid. They've made some really bad decisions based on, everybody's going, ugh. I'm sure you could pick 3 or 4 moments where you're just yelling at the screen going,
3 or 4.
We know you're brothers, but please go save the universe.
Yeah.
It is. It's a common theme in Supernatural, and I really like it. I also like the point that they really have picked who they think of as family. Yeah. Family to them family to them. Now, of course, when you talk about spells,
which is a very Slytherin thing. I was going to say, by the way.
Yes, indeed. You have to remember that blood is important to a lot of the spells that they talk about in the show over the years. But really, there it is. But the family element is something that they've picked. I mean, Castiel isn't even a human being, and they treat him like a uncle,
brother, father.
Yeah.
It's like one of the. I would love to see what a Freudian would say about their relationship with Castiel being an angel and his relationship with Sam and with Dean, because it's more complicated than just he's some guy that they,
Sometimes they treat him like a younger brother. Sometimes he acts like an older brother or a father figure. So it's like it's all over the place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then I mean, with Jack, they basically all claimed that him as their son. Like they said multiple times. They were like, he's our kid.
Yeah. So, and he even says they're all my dad.
Yeah.
I have
multiple times. Yeah.
And there's something going on there with Jack having become the adopted son of everyone in the cast, basically. There's something there that I'm still scratching my head about. I'm hoping that by the end of the show, we'll get some kind of explanation or something will come that will go, oh, light bulb moment. Okay, that's why Jack is so overwhelmingly loved by all of these people in that way, right? It's like he's a Nephilim, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Yeah. So the idea that they would treat him like a kid is kind of almost ridiculous.
The puppy dog eyes.
Puppy dog is part of it, yeah.
Well, it also humanizes him, because if they treated him like a weapon of mass destruction that he is, it would change his personality. The fact that they treat him like a person and someone that they care about, it makes him a person, or at least makes him think of himself as one. So even when he doesn't have a soul for a while, he still is like modeling himself off of their actions.
Right. And that's what made him like want to be good in the first place, is because in the womb, his mother treated him like he was going to be a good person, like he was going to be a human, and not like he was going to be, the son of Lucifer. And so I feel like Sam and Dean and Castiel saw this and saw that when he came out, that he was influenced by that. So they're like, if we keep treating him this way and with love, then that's what he's going to reflect.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a huge statement on upbringing being different than predisposition or destiny or genetics, that everyone kind of assumed that even though they all knew he was a Nephilim, they just assumed that they could influence the way that went. Which I think is a very powerful statement. I think that it's nice to think that we've got people modeling their being an aunt or an uncle or a parent after Sam and Dean and Castiel going, and Jack's mom, all obviously. Yeah. They're all going, no, we can improve his situation and the quality of his life by just treating him differently. Better.
And they do that with Castiel. I mean, when Castiel first comes on the show, he's a sociopath, essentially. Like, he doesn't care about anything. He follows God's orders and upholds his word, and that's all he cares about. But through spending time with Sam and Dean, he influences them, and they do it with Crowley too. Crowley becomes a better person through Dean. Like, so that is a theme throughout the entire show.
Do we want to? Oh, go ahead, Hannah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I actually I read a thing about in Crowley's last season. That entire season, he didn't do anything bad. Like, there was nothing in that entire season that he did out of malice.
Yeah.
Which was like the only season that happened. So I thought that was interesting. That Sam and Dean had influenced him, the king of hell, to. So
we've heard people say that a good hero isn't a good hero without a really good villain, and Crowley is part of that, obviously. I want to talk about the bad guys a little bit, because obviously we've got the monsters, we've got the monster of the week thing going on, and they're in a constant state of digging graves and burning bones and salting things. That's fine, but Crowley is a delight.
Oh God,
he's such a good character. Yeah,
I was so upset
Me
when.
too.
Yeah, I mean,
every time
everybody
I thought he was
knows
coming back.
so.
Every moment.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah.
I think it was the actor said he didn't want to be on it anymore.
Mark Sheppard. I think it's Mark Sheppard.
Yeah, Mark Sheppard.
Well,
Yeah.
the chat people will correct me immediately if I get that wrong. But yeah, no, he does a fabulous job.
Oh yeah, but I think the actor didn't want to be on it anymore, and that's why they killed him off.
Oh, really?
Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very upset.
I don't know if that's right or wrong.
I could totally be wrong.
I mean,
he was totally be wrong.
How many years was Crowley a character on the show?
A long time.
A very long time.
I mean,
and that's the majority of the episodes, I'm pretty sure.
And that's one of the things I think it's interesting about Supernatural is that when you look at the graphics, there we go. Robin thinks the opposite. That's very interesting.
Okay.
When you look at the graphics of Supernatural, and there are gazillions of them, you have this obvious thing that's, of course, is right here over my shoulder, where you've got Sam and Dean, and then every once in a while it's Sam and Dean and Castiel, but usually Crowley's with them. It's usually the four of them standing there all going, if you haven't watched the show, you don't know which of us is the bad guy, which I love. I love that the fallen angel and the king of hell are right there with them.
Yeah. Even
though often they're at odds, they're not.
Well, it's the angel and the demon on the shoulders.
The angel and the demon on the shoulders.
That's pretty much what it is. But I'm pretty sure, just going back to how we were talking before about I'm pretty sure they're pretty good friends outside of the show too. And I'm like Robin said, I think Crowley or Mark Sheppard would probably still be willing to come back if there was a reason to write him back on. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but it's a really fun thing to go and look up. You can look it up on YouTube. They perform together often, like in a band. Dean sings. You've seen him sing on the show a bunch of times. Sometimes he pretends like he can't sing, like Will Smith does in all the movies that he's in, but he's actually a very good singer. And Mark Sheppard plays the drums, and he's a very good drummer. And Chuck, what's Chuck's name? Rob something with a B. But he plays the guitar. There's an episode where Chuck is playing the guitar. That's actually him playing the guitar. He's a musician. And they perform together often at conventions and stuff when they go because they enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows, no like we were saying earlier, with the actors' relationship and how they are all like cool with each other outside of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And can I assume that Ackles met his wife on the show? That's where they first met.
I would assume, but
I think so. Yeah, I'm sure somebody's going to correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure they will. It is CONjuration after all.
I was right. It's Rob. Someone posted Rob Benedict. So
Rob Benedict. Yeah. There's a
Thanks, Panico.
We want to, but we also want to talk about. I mean, obviously Crowley's not the only villain. He's probably one of the best urban fantasy villains anywhere. I'd love to see just stories about him.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Nicodemus from the Dresden Files.
Yes. Yeah, I was actually thinking about how Dresden's bad guys do have a very similar Crowley vibe. That they kind of know that people think they're the bad guy. That whole thing about everyone's the hero of their own story. Crowley is absolutely the hero of his own story. And I love that. But he also knows that. And he knows that most people disagree with him, but he doesn't care. He's like, whatever. I'm doing this because I'm doing the right thing. You guys are you may be the heroes, but you're not right. And I love that he does that. The guy who I forget the actor's name, who plays Lucifer. The guy that played Lucifer seemed to also get on this same vibe where he's like, Pellegrino. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. Pellegrino. How do you play the essentially like, okay, now hold on. It's supernatural, so I have to be careful. It's like the fourth most powerful being in the universe, fifth, right? So it's Chuck and Nara, Jack. It's supernatural. It's complicated.
Yeah.
How do you play the fifth or sixth most powerful being in the entire universe without coming across as a piece of cardboard? Pellegrino does such a great job.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he was great in Battlestar, and when Lost was good, he was, like God in Lost too. So
yeah,
he's a great actor, fantastic actor. I'm so glad. Like the Lucifer episodes are some of my favorite because I don't know whether he ad libs his lines, but his delivery is fantastic for a lot of his stuff. Like the funny stuff and the like scary, mean poignant things. Like he can deliver a line.
Yeah, and even when he wasn't Lucifer, when he was Nick, like you could tell, like him as an actor, you could tell the distinction between the two, which I love when they do that. Like the actors on the show are so great. There's so many times where they're like possessed by somebody else, or like when there's an angel in them or a demon in them, and you can really see, like, you can tell the difference in like who they are being. Like the actors are just really great at portraying that. But just that one in particular, since we were just talking about Lucifer, I thought the Lucifer to Nick to Lucifer sort of transition was really cool to see.
His body language changes and everything. You can really tell.
Yeah. And then his whole like psychotic breakdown. But
when Castile, when Misha was playing the human that would become Castiel, that was a heartbreaking. All those episodes where he's really himself, I'm just like, oh my God, this is painful. Which is a compliment. It was very emotionally difficult to watch this guy deal with the repercussions of having decided to host an angel, right? Because Supernatural doesn't shy away from the consequences. It's another thing that I like about the show and the longevity of the show is that they are willing to go, okay, when you mess with this is what happens to the people around you. Dean's relationship with the boy that he thought was his kid, right? I'm sure plenty of us have headcanon where we don't care about genetics. That is his child. It's just that was heart-wrenching also, is that you're dealing with he gave up this love of this woman who was willing to let him be the father of her child, which is not insignificant at all. And he went, I can't. It's a great moment. It was well acted. It was well written. And I was like, okay, the people that run this show are paying attention. They're really doing a great job of giving us human beings who are in a terrible situation doing terrible things.
To go back to, on the same vein, to go back to Castiel, once he goes back into, was his name John? I don't remember. Anyway, once he goes back into his host's body, and he's gone forever now, and he's Castiel, and the host is gone. Jimmy, that's what it was. It was a J. It was in there.
Thank you, Hannah Novak.
Jimmy Novak. Yep. The episode where he goes and rescue and is looking for his wife, and he rescues his daughter. It's the first time we see the daughter, and he has to explain that Jimmy is dead, and and come to terms with what he did going into the body. Like that was a really interesting thing too. It was an interesting growth episode for Castiel.
Yeah. So can you guys think of any other really great examples of consequences?
I mean, everything that Sam and Dean do is like...
Yeah, I was about to say when Castiel killed Billy and then she became Death.
Yeah.
Or when Dean killed Death.
Rescuing everyone from hell every time they rescue somebody from hell.
So in the bylaws of running a convention, you have to mention Felicia Day at least once a day. So Charlie,
I love her so much.
Charlie's complete rejection of their mythology in the world, in the world, right? Now, I'm not talking about Felicia, I'm talking about Charlie as a character. Her rejection of their mythology and Sam and Dean's importance in the whole universe, and she's like, I don't care, guys, I don't want to be involved. And they're like, but we need your, and she's like, I don't care. I don't want to be involved. This is scary. I want to leave. And then she left, and then she came back. And then there were consequences when she came back one time. And I just was like, one of the toughest deaths in any kind of fantasy series ever was, and they came really close to having it be a little bit too heavy, but I think they pulled back from that edge. Sam and Dean really had authentic friendship and affection for Charlie. And if the writers were going to go, well, we have to kill somebody to make a point, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
A pretty good one.
I was actually like, I mean, I know they went really hard with her death, but I felt like the like episode where she went out, that was like the Frankenstein episode, like I felt like it wasn't a big enough like case or anything for her to just like be taken out by. You know what I mean? Like I felt like if she was going to be taken out, that like such a beloved character, and I know that like the way that she went out, she was trying to like save what was on the hard drive and it was for like a bigger plan, but like I don't know, I felt like she was taken out by a smaller monster, I guess, comparatively to, you know, like the darkness or, you know, like some of the big things that they're up against, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's important, and Hannah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's an interesting point, but I do want to say that I think that if you go back and look, I think Charlie was correct about everything she said. Like, I think Charlie was the one character that was she wasn't flawless. That's not what I'm saying. But every time she would open her mouth and go, guys, this is what's going to happen, she ended up being right.
Yeah.
And when she basically said, I got to bail or you guys are going to get me into trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she was right.
Yeah.
They do bring her back though when they start going to alternate universes again. So.
Right. It's not for much. And she keeps being like, no, I'm not your Charlie. Yeah. So it's kind of like, but yeah.
It's Felicia Day, and more Felicia Day is always good.
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to see her, but.
Yeah. And I know we're getting close to the point where we need to wrap up here. We got a few more minutes, but I want to give the two of you a chance. Hannah, is there anything you feel like I missed? Anything huge that we need to talk about with Supernatural for the last few minutes?
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
I am. Thom, do you want to save Hannah for that question?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is you know, separating the characters that we love is the lore and the mythology, and they get it right more often than they get it wrong, and I like that, and they're not afraid to use different types of mythology and different pull from different religions and stuff like that and put them together sometimes. So I really that's the thing that I really enjoy when I read books, when I go into TV shows, video games, even the lore and the magic systems are really what hold me, especially if they're unique or different or varying. And you get that in this. I mean, you get every type of magic that there is in Supernatural.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I just really want to quickly say, Thom, in response to that is, I would love it if some college professor somewhere would use Supernatural as a way to kind of get the students interested in the mythology that is the point of the class they're teaching. Obviously, Supernatural makes mistakes every once in a while. Everybody does, but I think that's just a great framework.
Okay, everyone, we're going to watch this episode, and this is the creature that's in it. I want you to give me the etymology of this creature and its name and where it comes from. Yeah, that would be an interesting. I would take that class.
I would definitely take that. We did take that class. Hannah, did you come up with something?
Well, I have two things, but I have seen some comments about Rowena, and she's like one of my favorite people on the whole show, and we didn't talk about her at all, so I'm kind of sad about that, but I love her so much.
She's
I'm
so
just gonna say that. She's so
great.
Is.
She's another one of those characters that absolutely knows who she is in the story.
Oh, for sure.
She absolutely knows who she is. Her self-deprecating humor and her she calls Sam like 17 different things that all mean that she thinks he's very sexy but way too tall for her. Something like that. I mean, and I have to say really quickly, the fact that they made fun of Sam's hair for like 4 years in a row.
Forever. For 50
I was about to say for 15 years.
They always make fun of his hair.
It's something about his hair. Yeah. The beautiful giant or whatever it is. It's always something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they dressed up as each other for Halloween, and Jensen Ackles made sure to have a wig and really emphasize his costume. It was fantastic.
That's a great idea. Yeah. Hannah, what was the second thing?
The second thing was, well, we've been doing a rewatch. Me and my boyfriend have been doing the rewatch together, and we've been very annoyed by the hypocrisy of Dean. And that's been something that we've noticed a lot in the last couple seasons about how Dean is just like super hypocritical, how he'll, he's going to do anything to save Sam and like put the universe in danger and yada yada. But when it comes to like anybody else and them trying to save somebody, he's like, just kill them, like just do whatever you have to do. Like he's just like super hypocritical based on his opinions, and
even when it
Hanako
comes to
agrees
him.
with me.
Yeah, no,
but Dean is super annoying basically and has been driving us nuts.
Yeah, I want to see
y'all's opinions.
I want to see if a mathematician has done a graph showing how much Dean is unraveling versus how critical the story is. There's a correlation there. Dean's unraveling and the story consequences they go together on that chart. Yeah, watching Dean unravel is kind of entertaining sometimes. So what I want to suggest is maybe we should come back next year and do a panel, another supernatural panel. I would love to do that. Would love to have us get a chance to dig into Rowena. Heck, we can just do a whole panel on Rowena and Crowley.
You could.
Right.
You could.
Easily could fill 45 minutes with that.
A few hundred-year-old witch. Yeah, you could talk about her.
Oh yeah, and so much potential. I'm actually surprised they never released. They accidentally released a rumor that they were going to do like a prequel spin-off of just Rowena stories, because that would be very entertaining if they could pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we've got a couple of minutes left. Any parting shots?
I definitely want to give house points to Hanako because she's corrected us a few times here with her vast supernatural knowledge. So
Yes.
Who pulled Rob Benedict out too?
Yep. So one of our monitors has been hitting people up with points in the chat while we've been talking. So absolutely, Hanako, thank you so much for all the details and everybody who's contributed in the chat. We love the fact that the chat is here, even though we're doing this virtually.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to say I have mixed feelings about the end of Supernatural, but absolutely I'm gonna be there all the way to the end because I was since the beginning basically. Thank you guys for the conversation. Let's do this. Is there Hannah? We'll start with you. Have you got any more panels this weekend?
Oh yes, I do. So I'll be on a panel about inner house relationships. So like people in different houses and how they live together, sorting the good place, sorting the office, and then, oh my gosh, what's my other one? It's one where, oh yeah, crime in Hogwarts. That one I'm actually really excited about. So, like what kind of crimes Hogwarts houses will commit. It'll be fun. So come listen to me talk some more.
Okay. And Thom, how about you? You got any more panels this weekend?
Yeah, we're sorting Simpsons at 7:00 tonight. And then I'm doing Good Place with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then tomorrow afternoon at 4, we're doing Double the Dresden. We're going to talk about the Dresden Files. I'm excited about that.
Can't wait for, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm thinking that the Supernatural guys and Jim Butcher are going, no, I have more books than you have seasons. No, we have more seasons than you have books.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And I'm on one or two more panels this weekend. So is there, do either of you want to tell people how they can run into you on the interwebs if they want to argue with you about your supernatural opinions?
For me, if you look up Dragon Mount on YouTube or Instagram, or if you go to dragonmount.com, you'll find everything there. There's a ton of ways to interact with Dragon Mount and with the YouTube show that I'm on and the other two hosts that are much better than me and hold me up for every episode that I'm on. You could find us there. So if you just, YouTube dragonmount.com or just go to dragonmount.com and click links through there, you'll find it.
Excellent. Hannah, how about you?
I'm not huge on the interwebs. I have a Twitter. It's at Lost Little Libra. I don't post much, so sorry. I have an Instagram. It's Hannah spelled with 4 N's. Emily. That's it.
So here's the trick. So if you want to come disagree with us about Supernatural, you're going to have to come back to CONjuration next year for the next Supernatural panel, which I have a funny feeling we're going to do, especially if you guys in the audience will help tell Angela and Chris you want more Supernatural programming, which we absolutely do, if you guys are interested. Okay, I'm Darin Bush. You can find my Amazon short story or my short stories on Amazon on my author's page, Darin M. Bush, and we've got about 15 seconds left. So what we're going to do is we're going to not end the panel. Thank you, everybody, for attending Virtual CONjuration and the Supernatural panel. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. See you guys soon.